What's up everyone, today I want to showcase two newly buffed Pokemon, Gligar and Golisipod. Gligar, definitely the biggest winner of this update, getting a buff to both Dig and Aerial Ace has just transported it into the top meta. This Pokemon is definitely here to stay. And then Golisipod also got a bit better because of X-Scissor buff. These two also form a pretty decent core. Gligar, of course, struggles very hard versus Ice types and does do well versus Waters as well. And Golisipod does quite well against those. And then Golisipod loses to Electric and Rocks, where Gligar really shines. So pretty good core here. Does struggle a bit versus some flying types like Mandibuzz, Mantine, Pelipper, which is why I got Alolan Sandslash in the back to beat those. I'm running a regular Gligar as well, by the way. Well, one, because I don't have Shadow, sadly. I actually do think Shadow is generally better, but regular is still really good, especially as a pivot. I think if you're running Gligar as a pivot or as a safe switch, like I'm doing in this team, regular might actually be the way to go, because one of the hardest counters to Gligar is Alolan Sandslash, Shadow Alolan Sandslash in particular. And Shadow Gligar has no shot there. Like, you switch it in, and unless you get like 3 win attacks advantage, which is a ton, you're not gonna get to a dig. Regular can potentially get to a dig, even if you have no energy lead. If you have a very good IV one, you actually survive 6 Shadow Claws and an Ice Punch from Shadow Alolan Sandslash and reach the dig. Now, unfortunately, the dig won't knock out, but it does either get a shield from a Sandslash or do like, I think almost 90%, like 80%, I think. It's a lot of damage. So as a pivot, you might want to consider running a regular Gligar, because at least then you have a chance of doing some damage to the opposing Alolan Sandslash if it were to come in, whereas Shadow just doesn't do anything. It will just go down, and that's it. Your Gligar has done nothing. So this team, I liked the regular Gligar, and even though it's not ranked as highly on PvPoke, I still think it's amazing. Alright, in this next game here, we led into a Mandibuzz, which, like I said, is a bit of a core breaker for Golisopod. And Gligar, especially with Air Slash here, this is kind of uncomfortable. Luckily though, because of the Aerial Ace buff, Gligar actually has a bit of a chance here. Previously, Gligar would run something like Night Slash Dig, and you would just have no charge moves to hit the Mandibuzz. But now you do. Actually, I brought it into the red, which is still not great. Foul Play is just a much better move than Aerial Ace is, so Mandibuzz wins the neutral damage game there. Bring in my Sandslash. In comes Diggersby. I'm thinking this has got to be like a Registeel in the back. This is a team I've actually seen before. So I keep my Sandslash alive by switching it out into Golisipod. Was really hoping that this would knock out actually, but Liquidation is just not strong enough. Actually, Liquidation is a decent move. Diggersby is just super tanky. I was thinking this was going to be a Hyper Beam. I think on Diggersby you want to run Hyper Beam at the moment, but I didn't want to shield it. Because what if it wasn't a Hyper Beam? You know, then I would have really put myself in a tough position. And I also need to save shields for Alolan Sandslash, because I am still expecting the Registeel in the back. And if it's Registeel in the back, I need shields for Alolan Sandslash. Unfortunately though, my opponent was able to farm me down, get a shield off of my Alolan Sandslash anyway, and bring out the Registeel without me getting too much of an energy lead. So this could still get pretty rough. I'm pretty sure if the Focus Blast here should be able to get to another one before my next move, but a Zap, which is 5 more energy. That might actually win me the game right here if I can get to my next draw run before their focus. 1, 2, 3 Shadow Claws, and I get there on the CMB tie. If they had just Focus Blasted immediately versus my Alolan Sandslash, they would have gotten there. But because they Zap Catted, hoping for the debuff, I did it. They didn't, and well, I was able to take out the Registeel, but because of this debuff, I wouldn't have been able to farm down the Mandibuzz, so I tried to catch, but I saw it coming, so I didn't throw. I farmed down the Diggersby, and then I Ice Punch the Mandibuzz. GG's. That was a pretty close game. In comes Venusaur. I think Golisipod, Venusaur is not that bad of a matchup, but I've got 2 better answers in the back in Gligar and Alolan Sandslash. And out comes Lapras once I switch in my Gligar, which is not great. But as you can see, a Dig actually did a decent chunk, and I get to another one because they tried to farm me down, which means I might actually get a shield here. I do. That's pretty nice. Lapras does have Skull Bash to hit my Golisipod, but I'm just gonna let it go. I have 2 shields. I'm not really expecting them to throw a Skull Bash. Besides that, this was early ranks, which means not everyone has like the optimal movesets, right? I was kind of expecting Ice Beam Lapras at this point, and it was, which, you know, that's resisted. So it actually did a lot, but still not enough to knock me out. So yeah, we can go for the farm down now. I have a bunch of energy loaded for whatever comes in. Oh, talk about early ranks, by the way. Made me realize I went on a 10-win streak with this team, by the way, to start, and that was pretty nice. But it's early ranks, right? And you start seeing stuff like this, like Hex Marowak, which doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I got a 10-win streak, but I mean, who cares, right? It's yeah, who cares? I still think this team has play, though, even later on in Great League, when you're actually facing like players around your level, I guess. Anyway, Venusaur comes out again, and now A-Slash is looking really, really good. GG's. Alright, Lanturn lead. Now, this is pretty awkward. I think a Water Gun Lanturn is fine for Golisipod, but Spark Lanturn not the best. Luckily, Gligar has a decent matchup here, though. So does Alolan Sandslash. That's a pretty manageable Pokemon. They surf and dip out, though, which is very annoying to go into their own Gligar, which makes this pretty awkward, as they've now done enough damage to where they can just do an aerial ace, farm me down, and I don't threaten them by any of my moves. So yeah, it's a bit awkward. I'm gonna throw an aerial ace right here. Besides that, they get enough farm to where they would outpace my Alolan Sandslash to a dig, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna bring in Golisipod here to take the aerial ace, and then I'm gonna switch into Alolan Sandslash to get a little bit of energy and throw the Ice Punch onto the Gligar. I think I gotta throw, yeah, immediately. Otherwise, they would have gotten to another dig, which I didn't, or their first dig, actually, their dig. I didn't want it to happen, so I just throw immediately. Now Lanturn comes in. Because Lanturn now has slower pacing, I'm gonna pace his drill runs at the exact same rates as they're gonna pace to surf. So this is amazing. I don't even have to bait here, which is great. The sparks are definitely adding up, though, but at this point, I'm safe to just go without baiting here. Throw another drill run. The only scary part is they are still have a Pokemon in the back, and I'm kind of afraid they're gonna catch the 3rd drill run. But since I don't know what the back Pokemon is yet, I'm just gonna throw it immediately. If they catch, they catch. Well done, and they do catch. That's a really nice play. They even catch on the Gliscor, which is just insane. Like, that's a really, really nice catch. If I wouldn't have thrown there, could have Ice Punched it, it would have almost got a not one shot, but yeah, it was a drill run, so well played. At this point, they just farm me down. I tried doing something there where I didn't Shadow Claw anymore, hoping they would throw the move, and then I could farm down with A-Slash and maybe get to the drill run versus Lanturn, but, you know, they were smart. They didn't allow it to happen, so they knocked me out, and that's a good game. Okay, Wigglytuff lead. That's pretty bad for Golisipod, as I don't have a fast move to hit it with, as Shadow Claw is double resisted right there. So I switch into Gligar, my soft answer. Out comes Sableye, and this is still a fine matchup for Gligar. I'm just super, super tanky, and I outpace here to an aerial ace. So we'll now knock out the Sableye if they let it go. I do kind of want switch or both shields down, which is why I'm gonna shield up this move, right? Do shield this move? Yeah, I either want my Sandslash first to Wigglytuff, or I want to have shields down so my Golisipod actually has play against it, since 2 liquidation should knock it out. They bring in Deoxys. Apparently they are quite weak to Gligar. Actually, they're not that weak at all. Wigglytuff and Sableye do fine. It's just Deoxys that's kind of has a problem with Gligar. So I'm kind of surprised they brought out Deoxys there, actually, instead of just Wigglytuff. They could have just thrown one charm and knocked me out. But I guess this also kind of makes sense, as getting Deoxys some energy is kind of scary for me, as I don't want to take a Thunderbolt on my Golisipod either, which is why I shielded there. They switched out into Wigglytuff here, which I responded to with my Alolan Sandslash. Is of course a pretty good counter, but a shield down, I'm actually not too confident I can take this Wigglytuff out. At least I've done enough damage to where liquidation can knock out, and taken a shield though, so I'm looking pretty good here. Besides that, they throw Disarming Voice, not even play rough, which didn't knock me out, but the following charms did. So it's still pretty scary. I gotta throw the liquidation here. This will knock out the Wiggly, but now it's gotta hope I outpace the Deoxys. And it seems like I would have, because they conceded the match. GG's. Okay, Deoxys lead. Pretty good for Golisipod right here, though. A Thunderbolt would do a ton. So if they throw that, I gotta shield it. But I'll go for Psycho Boost immediately. And then they're gonna dip out, most likely. Yep, into an Umbreon. This is kind of an awkward Pokemon for my team to deal with. Don't have anything that really hard walls it. Golisipod, of course, has X-Scissors, but even after the buff, I'm still gonna need 3 to knock out this Umbreon, and my fast moves are doing absolutely nothing. Since I kind of want to keep the Golisipod for Deoxys, though, I'm gonna take a move here on my Gligar once they get there. Could have also saved Gligar for Deoxys, but then I would have had to shield my Golisipod once or twice to get through this Umbreon, and I didn't think that was worth it. So I'd rather just switch in Gligar here, go for a full farm down, have 2 shields up still, and then I think Golisipod should be fine to deal with the Deoxys still later on in the game. Ah, man, I have 2 moves here, which is really nice, but they bring in Dugong, which means I'm only gonna get off one of them, and I gotta switch in Alolan Sandslash here, which will of course take super effective from their Drill Run. They allow me to get to my Drill Run first, though. We'll do a good chunk if they let it go. They do let it go. Since they let it go, I'm gonna let it go too, but this might be a mistake, because the Deoxys might be able to just farm down everything right now, which, looking at that counter damage, it's not looking good. But remember, I'm playing in the early ranks right here, and opponents don't always make the logical choice, and they decide to no-shield my move, which allows my Golisipod to farm down. GG's. I don't know, dude. I don't know what happened there, but, you know, that's just how it goes. Okay, Dugong pivot into my Golisipod. This is amazing. I've seen a lot of Deoxys Dugong cores, actually, which makes sense. It's actually a pretty good core, but Golisipod breaks it. So, yeah, I could just stay in here. I straight up win this matchup in every single even shield scenario, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not 2s, if they like, they buff me twice and shield my first 2 X-Scissors. I don't know, I haven't looked that up. But at least 0s, 1s, I definitely win. And I still can get my Gligar aligned to the Deoxys later. Go for another X-Scissor here, even have 2 built up, so yeah, it's pretty nice. This point, I'm just gonna let Golisipod go down, probably, no matter what comes in. Gligar, Sandslash, you're pretty good core as well. So whenever I get switch or like lead with Golisipod, there's no point in really like saving it or anything, as the core of Gligar, Sandslash can usually deal with whatever's left. Basically, yeah, there's like a Swampert would be tough, of course, but even that, Gligar actually does fine again. That's another matchup where regular Gligar is better. A regular Gligar can actually win versus Shadow Swampert in, I think, the 1s if you have a little bit of energy lead, and 2s, like straight areaways, it's like pretty good. Shadow can't do that, so Hydro Cannon does much more there. Anyway, Greninja comes in. If this is a Night Slash, should be able to win. It is, but they boost, which means I lose. Unless they no-shield the Drill Run. But why would they no-shield the Drill Run, right? Why would they no-shield the Drill Run? I still got a Gligar. There, Greninja has a lot of value. There's no they no-shielded the Drill Run. And I win the game. GG's. Okay, Alolan Sandslash lead. This is where I want to see it. This is actually not an amazing matchup for Golisipod, as you can see. Alolan Sandslash is just outpacing me damage-wise, so not great. But they let the liquidation go. Even though they were like doing more damage to their Shadow Claws, by the way, all their charge moves are resisted, which means Golisipod still wins every single even shielding scenario. It's just close. It's closer than you want to be, but it's good enough to where you win. Anyway, Swalot comes out. I love this Pokemon. And you know who else loves this Pokemon? Alolan Sandslash. Because everything except for the fast moves is double resisted. This Pokemon has Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam. They can't hit me with the charge moves. So I eat both those Sludge Bombs up, throw a Drill Run once I got to 100 energy, and I have a lot of energy stored to throw at this Hitmontop. Hitmontop, another interesting Pokemon. I think it's pretty high rated on PvPoke, but honestly, maybe a bit overrated. Like, I'm sure it's good. It's just not as good as Medicham. And it loses to Medicham. A Pokemon you're going to see everywhere. Like, if you want to run a different fighter, yeah, Himmeltop is cool. It has a better Sableye matchup as well, which is nice. It's just, it's not the best fighter, right? It's not the best fighter. It's the unfortunate thing about Medicham existing. It doesn't really allow other fighters to really shine, even though they definitely have play. Look, this is Himmeltop. Farm down my Golisipod, and now has energy for my Gligar, but you know, it's just over. Triple Axel doesn't one-shot, so they just let the Himmeltop go, and that's another good game. Okay, another Deoxys lead. They're staying in again. Deoxys lead was quite common in my experience, which makes sense. I think Deoxys is a pretty good lead. You know, Psycho Boost Dip is a good strategy. When my opponent applies here, this time my opponent farmed to Thunderbolt though, which made me shield. They go in Dugong and I go for the liquidation. I don't know why I did this, but you know, clearly I know more. Because the previous me knew why, because I got a defense drop, I guess. Yeah, no, that was a mistake. I got kind of, I think I got kind of distracted right there and just threw a move. And it happened to be liquidation. I got very lucky getting the debuff there though, because if I hadn't, that would have been trouble. I was distracted for sure, as I miscounted here too, and I didn't throw my X-Scissor, so I got a shield now, which is not great. I'm 2 shields down. Farm down the Dugong though, have an X-Scissor loaded for whatever comes in, ends up being Deoxys. Interesting. And they let it go, and it's A-Slash in attack. This is such a risky move by my opponent. If I have like anything that counters Pokemon right now, you know, like a Medicham, which honestly isn't too bad with Golisipod, they would just be dead. But no, they were able, they would just want to risk it all, and well, it worked out because my team won't be able to handle this. Oh, by the way, earlier in the video I was talking about how Gligar survives 6 Shadow Claws and an Ice Punch. Well, it's not gonna happen this battle, as my opponent throws on CMP, so it throws 7 Shadow Claws and Ice Punch, and that knocks me out. So this is some good information for you. If you have a regular Sandslash, or no, Shadow and Sandslash in the back, and your opponent goes into a Gligar, actually, this now, okay. One point that I want to make is, generally, when you're switching Gligar, you're gonna get only like 6 Shadow Claws of damage, but in this case, my opponent was smart enough to CMP tie with me, which allowed him to get in a 7th. If they had thrown 1 before I got to my dig, I would have gotten off my dig, because I would have gotten 1 less Shadow Claw of damage in, if that makes any sense. Anyway, we're just going to move on to the next game. They switched in Azumarill, which I'll answer with Shadow Alert and Sandslash. If Azumarill has Play Rough, Ice Beam, this is pretty good for me. If it has Hydro Pump, this is not great. I actually expect most Azus to run Hydro Pump these days. I think it might be the move to go for. Still let it go, though. Still let it go. Even though I don't reach the run here, that's kind of unfortunate. I go for the Ice Beam, Ice Punch bait. Luckily, that shielded. It's pretty nice. But yeah, I was willing to let that go. Since I didn't really need switch right here. My Gligar did fine against the lead as well. So that's why I'm also willing to let this go. You know, I'm just hoping Gligar will core break the rest of the team at this point, since I've now taken out a pretty hard Gligar answer in Azumarill. Talk about Azumarill, by the way. Gligar, Shadow version, the regular unfortunately can't, but Shadow can win 2s against some Azumarills, which is crazy. I say some of Azumarills because it's IV dependent. You can't win 2s first like a rank 1, but if they're like, I think after like rank 30 or so, Gligar can win 2s there, so that's kind of cool. But it's also not really a matchup you should be going for, as you need to go 2 shields down, which is not worth it, of course. Still, it is interesting that Gligar can do that. Anyway, out comes Registeel. Gligar just being the amazing Medicham, Registeel core breaker that it is, able to get to a dig, do a good chunk of damage. You know, dig is not a strong move, but it's strong enough. If it hadn't been able to 2-shot Registeel like this, it wouldn't have been a good Pokemon, honestly. Gligar wouldn't have been, but because it just barely is enough, makes Gligar really, really good. Anyway, we farmed out a Medicham. GG's. That's the final battle. Hope you enjoyed this video. This final verdict on these 2 Pokemon. Gligar, absolutely amazing. Definitely build one if you can. Golisipod, I think it's okay, but I'm not sure if it really fits into the meta, especially if more carbings are gonna start popping up. Might be a bit hard to run. Anyway, thank you. See ya. Bye-bye.